I have an announcement. Your grandmother is on the line.
My Nana?
And as we speak, she's generously writing PBS a check for $1,500.
She can't do that. She's on a very fixed income. Stop the show! But I don't want to be a
secondary character.
Hello.
Hello.
I like Uncle Leo's gentle hello when he comes backstage at the PBS fundraiser. He goes, hello. Yeah. It's a bit more low-key.
It is, and I love his performance right at the end when he goes, stop the show.
Stop
She's on
the
a
show.
very fixed income.
She's on a very fixed income.
I love it.
Welcome to But I Don't Want to Be a Secondary Character. We're a Seinfeld podcast out of Melbourne, Australia. Every week we take a random Seinfeld episode and examine the secondary characters from it. And in case it wasn't obvious already, we are doing Season 6, Episode 3, The Pledge Drive.
Yes, we are. A very, very funny episode and very well written, I think, and very good performances all round. I quite enjoyed this one a lot.
Lots of secondaries as well. We'll be talking about the rarely seen grandmother of Seinfeld, Nana. She's
yes.
credited. Mm-hmm. Uncle Leo, of course. Mm-hmm. We'll also be talking about Justin Pitt, Elaine's boss, Noreen and Dan, the couple who sound the same but are very different people.
This is Dan.
This is Dan. Kristen, and a couple of notes I've got on Danny Tartable. He's a real-life Yankees player.
Yes.
Who is a victim of George's anger, his road rage.
Yep.
And a couple of notes I have as well on the banker, who is very polite and very smooth.
Yeah, very good, very good. And I've got a bit of info about Mr. Morgan as well. He's in the episode.
Yeah.
But not much. I mean, you just see him start, George is cutting his dessert and he's wondering what that is, and it catches on in the Yankees.
Yeah, and then it sort of spreads like wildfire all through New York.
Yeah, it becomes like a meme of sorts.
Yes, that's right. If you eat your Snickers with a knife and fork, let us know. You can email us bidwithaspodcast@gmail.com. You can say hello on all forms of social media, Twitter.
That's fine.
Twitty, it's a new form.
It is.
We've just invented it.
We have.
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. You can listen to all of our previous episodes on any podcast app you choose, and if you want to help us out, it would be awesome if you'd rated us or reviewed us. It really helps with visibility and spreading the word, and you can support us financially too.
Yes, one-off payments to PayPal if you're so inclined, if you think we're worthy of some dollars in these very tough economic times. Or you can go to Patreon, patreon.com/BIDWBASC, and get access to this episode earlier than everyone else, as well as our bonus podcasts, Curbcast, that's about Curb Your Enthusiasm, and Season 11, an original Seinfeld series by us.
That's right. We are just over halfway through Season 3 of Curbcast at the moment, and we're about halfway through Season 11 of our fictional Seinfeld podcast, but we'll be finishing that off either later this year or early next year. So sign up to check all those episodes out. Finally, we do have the biggest Seinfeld community online, all over the world, anywhere. Seinfeldisms. It's a Facebook group. We've got about 102,500 members, so check that out on Facebook if you want to join the fun.
And it's even bigger than groups on Twitty.
It is, yeah. But I'm going to use Twitty to grow the biggest group.
Yes.
I'm going to promote Twitty to Facebook, and then something crazy will happen.
It'll become Twitbook.
Twitbook.
Yes.
Well, it is kind of Twitbook. There are a lot of twits on there.
There sure are.
Not in the Seinfeld community. You're all awesome. But anyone outside the Seinfeld community, all those friends people, you're all twits.
Yeah, everyone on Seinfeldisms is dateable.
Yep.
95% of the world's undateable. Everyone in Seinfeldisms is dateable.
Yeah, basically, Seinfeldisms is the 5%.
It is, yeah. 5% of the population.
The 5%.
Facebook, at least. Spot on.
Speaking of Seinfeldisms, every week we talk about any interaction of Seinfeld and real life that have happened during the last week. Anything for you?
No, unfortunately not this week, I'm afraid. A second in a row with nothing.
Yeah, my Seinfeldisms week was not very exciting. I only have one. Auntie Donna, they're an Australian comedy trio, maybe, or quadro. Is that a thing? Duo,
yeah,
trio,
I think so.
Quadro?
They have a Netflix special, don't they?
Yeah. So in one of their episodes, it's a Netflix series.
Oh, it's a series.
I think it's like 6 or 8 episodes. It's a short series.
Yeah, sure.
But I walked into the room the other day and my partner was watching it, and I stood and watched it for 5 or 10 minutes. And purely by excellent coincidence, they made a Seinfeld reference in that 5 or 10 minutes that I watched the show. So
perfect.
Don't know what episode, can't even remember the context, but I just made a mental note. Seinfeld reference, Seinfeldism. That's it.
Your Seinfeld senses kicked in.
I think so,
oh
yeah.
My God, you just have like this sixth sense.
Yeah, it's almost like what do they call it in Minority Report? Precognition.
Precognition.
Like I can, instead of being able to predict crimes and being like a creepy pale woman in a water tank, I just I'm a fat, chubby dude who predicts Seinfeld stuff.
You're not chubby, you look good, mate.
Oh, thanks. You're about to say, you're not white.
You're not white.
You're calling me fat?
You're a person of colour.
I am not.
No, you're not. We're just two straight white men.
Yes. Perfect demographic for Seinfeld.
Absolutely.
Seinfeld news. A couple of things to talk about this week. First one, a sad note. Another passing.
No. Who this time?
Not an actor or an actress on Seinfeld, but a director by the name of Art Wolff. And he actually directed the very first Seinfeld episode, the pilot, Good News, Bad News.
Wow, that name does sound very familiar. Okay, he did do Good News, Bad News.
He did, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so Art has quite a prolific career. He has worked on The Tracy Ullman Show, obviously Seinfeld, The Paula Poundstone Show, Gary Shandling Show, and he's also done work as an acting coach, and he's credited with being the dialect coach for Dakota Fanning in I Am Sam, which I believe she may have been nominated or have won an Oscar for.
Oh, it might have maybe nominated, but yeah, okay, wow. Okay,
yeah, so
great.
he's quite his skills were quite broad, and his impact was quite large. So R.I.P. Art.
Yeah, R.I.P. man. Jeez, what a phenomenal career he's had.
I know, and obviously, for us, his most important work was setting up or directing the first episode of Seinfeld, and if it wasn't for him, in a way, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, and also, with all the shit that this show went through the first couple of seasons to become an established part of the NBC lineup, I mean, Art Wolff was there, and he probably championed the show from the very start.
It'd be interesting to see if they kept him on as a director past the pilot, what the tone of the show would have been like, because you can notice a big difference between the pilot. I mean, pilots are always different to the regular series anyway.
Of course.
But even in the tone, the way it's edited, the script, there's a lot of differences, even in the set design. So it would have been interesting if, the show would have looked or felt different if they kept him on as a regular director after the pilot. But
would it have gone as long as it did?
Yeah, who knows? Maybe it was good that he just did the one episode and others took over. And
then Tom Sharona's, basically laid the groundwork and made it what it is, and Andy Ackerman came in and made it a bit wackier.
Yeah, so, greats building on top of greats.
Indeed.
Second bit of news is a bit of an obscure one, but I thought I'd flesh out Seinfeld news because it was a bit of a thin week. Larry David's daughter, Cazzie David, she put out I guess you would call it a teaser essay. She's releasing a new book, I believe next month or maybe in January. And the essay is basically going to be one of the chapters or part of one of the chapters for her book. And I think the idea, I couldn't get a lot of information about the book, but what I could glean was that it was almost going to be kind of like Larry David's neuroticisms, but in essay form.
Oh, right.
But from her perspective, being a 20-something young woman in sort of the entertainment industry, and just all the obsessive, compulsive, weird thoughts that she has, a la Larry David. So I think she's kind of,
cool.
Kicking on the David legacy of, obsessive, compulsive, weird thoughts and neurotic behavior.
Oh, that's wicked.
The essay is called Too Full to Fuck. And I did read it, and it's a weird read. It's basically her talking about how when she is dating, or, if she meets a new guy and she's sort of trying to impress him and, suss out where the relationship's going to go and all that sort of stuff, one dilemma she constantly runs into is if she goes on a date, she absolutely loves food, but she always has to choose between eating a lot of food on a date and, being full. But if she's too full, she can't have sex. So she's like, do I want to eat and feel satisfied, or do I want to not eat as much, and still feel hungry, but actually be horny enough to have sex? But, the sex could be bad, so it's a risk. So, strange essay topic.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
No. Unfortunately, though, if you read the comments, we'll post a link to the essay so you can read it for yourself. The comments aren't very kind.
Oh.
A lot of them are saying that it's just a load of shit, poorly written, who sort of greenlit this book. She's just a daughter of a rich person. If this was anyone else writing it, no one would have cared. I didn't find it too bad. I thought it was funny.
Well, there's probably a market for it.
Yeah, and being Larry David's daughter, whether she's being her true self or just sort of continuing the Larry David brand of comedy, I don't know, but I think it's pretty good, especially for her first sort of like major written work. She's only 25, 26.
Yeah.
She's a rookie at it. So, I can see a lot of promise. But
good luck to her.
Yeah, click the link, have a read, and you decide. And, if you do have a read, let us know what you think.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, but a bit of an obscure one, but worthwhile reporting, I think, because it's weird.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
Probably one of the weirdest ones you've done.
I think so. Yeah, and that's all the Seinfeld news for the week.
Very good, buddy. Let's have a quick break, and when we come back, we are talking about the third episode of Season 6, The Pledge Drive, and its very interesting secondary characters.
Hi, this is Zach. And Aaron from Seinfeld Law. And you are listening to But I Don't Want to Be a Secondary Character.
The Pledge Drive from Season 6, Episode 3, first aired in the US on October 6th, 1994. Directed by Andy Ackerman and written by Tom Gamble and Max Pross. In this episode, Jerry hosts the annual PBS Pledge Drive and asks George to get some of the Yankee players to appear on the show. George comes through and gets Tanny Tartable to appear. Kramer discovers that Jerry has been getting some birthday cards from his Nana with money inside, or checks. Nana is played by Billy Ree Wallace. He cashes them in and suddenly Nana's bank account is overdrawn. Nana then goes missing. Jerry gets in trouble with Elaine's friends, one of whom has an unusually high voice, when Elaine starts a rumour that the wife, or the girlfriend rather, was hitting on Jerry. George thinks everybody is giving him the finger and decides to follow one offender while driving Danny Tartable to the Pledge Drive. Kramer volunteers to become a phone answerer for PBS, and Elaine discovers that Mr. Pitt, played by Ian Abercrombie, eats his candy bars with a knife and fork, starting a very unusual trend in New York. And man, there's so many moving parts in this episode.
Yeah, and it all comes together quite nicely at the end.
Yeah, and really nice flow. I really enjoyed it. Other secondary characters in the episode: hello, Len Lesser, Uncle Leo. He makes an appearance. Kelly Caulfield Park plays Noreen in her first of 2 appearances on the show. Rebecca Starb plays Kristen, the PBS volunteer. Brian Reddy plays This Is Dan. Tom Wright plays Mr. Morgan. He makes another appearance. And James Reynolds plays the chemical bank manager who deals with Nana. Now, some trivia for the episode, Steve. Couldn't find too many, but a couple of really juicy ones. What have you got?
I've got that once the filming was completed, the actor Brian Reddy, who played Dan, they weren't too happy with his performance as a high talker, so they actually wiped the audio and redubbed it with a voice actor. And I don't think they did a very good job, because it's very easy to tell that he's miming. I think maybe they just didn't have enough time or enough budget. It just seems very slapped together. And considering the production quality of Seinfeld at this stage, season 6, the absolute peak of the show in terms of popularity and impact, it seems underwhelming.
I have a feeling like that you're right. I think that maybe they did try and do it with Brian Reddy, and then they probably were about to shoot it, and they were all do post-production. They're like, oh shit, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
So probably in post-production they got someone to come in and do the lines.
Yeah, but I mean, even with, their connections and their casting options and their budget, you think, I mean, the voice sounds good, but just the actual,
pitch.
The lining up the audio with his mouth movements,
Yeah,
it looks a bit off.
Yeah, it does. Look, I think it was probably time constraints. Probably,
Yeah.
I guess. I wouldn't put it down to money. Because you're right, by then Seinfeld was a juggernaut.
Yeah.
You do whatever it wanted.
That's true.
Yeah, very true. And funnily enough, legend has it that it's actually the actress who plays Noreen, Kelly Caulfield Park, who does the voice. But no, it wasn't. It was just another voice actress with a higher pitch, because apparently they did try and use her voice, but she didn't quite get that pitch that they wanted.
Yeah, it's quite piercing.
Yeah, quite piercing. Very noticeable. Yeah. I love this one. One day after the episode first aired, Ian Abercrombie, who plays Mr. Pitt, he was having lunch in a restaurant in LA, and he was waiting for his coffee, and the waiter put a plate with a Snickers bar on his table. And apparently the whole restaurant was in on the joke.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah, and apparently after that he realized that, Seinfeld was what it was, the cultural juggernaut. Sometimes when you're involved in something, you're aware that it's popular, obviously, but you don't really understand the impact that it's happening, yes. Happening on Twitty.
That
is happening on Twitty.
We just come up with new words.
Yeah, well, it's happening and having at the same time.
It is.
On Face Twitty.
God, Oxford will love you.
Yeah. We can't keep up.
Collins
all these
in
new words.
They'll be getting calls from Oxford and Collins and Webster and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, making up words.
That's right.
Another cool thing about Ian Abercrombie and his eating of Snickers is apparently it took him 4 Snickers bars. He actually ate 4 Snickers bars when he was filming that scene with a knife and fork. And if you actually notice it, I think I was listening to the Signcast episode for this episode.
Cool.
They pointed it out, and when I watched it after I listened to it, I noticed it. When Elaine's on the phone and Ian's sort of in the background half paying attention, but he's taking the Snickers bar out of his jacket pocket, he drops it and he does the quick catch before he pulls it, he undoes the wrapper and pulls it out. But just good sort of acting in the moment of, he could have dropped it and it would have sort of disturbed the whole scene and they would have had to retake it.
Yeah,
but he grabbed it and just went with it.
Lovely.
I love that. Yeah.
That's a testament to his acting abilities.
Yeah, and it just sort of, those little accidents sort of make it a bit more realistic, because, people do that. They pick up something and it slips and they quickly catch it and continue on with whatever they're doing.
Yeah, because sometimes it's just those moments which are unexpected when you're filming. Sometimes they make them just that scene just extra special.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not even a huge thing. It's not like a huge embellishment or a huge addition, but when you notice it, it just adds a tiny bit of reality to it.
It does, yeah. It's extremely subtle but effective.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all the trivia I have, bud. What about you?
Look, I've got a few other things, but they're not very notable, so I'll just skip them.
Okay, cool. Let's jump into some secondary characters from the Pledge Drive, eh?
Sounds good.
Let's talk about Noreen. Oh, wait, wrong name. That's Jolene, my mistake. Noreen, she is played by Kelly Caulfield Park. She's known for appearing in the film films Scary Movie, Jerry Maguire, and Bride Wars. She was also a regular in comedy series In Living Colour. Yeah, she was nominated for several awards with the cast.
I believe her and Jim Carrey were the only white cast members of In Living Colour, because it was mostly African Americans.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the Wayans brothers, right?
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, them and sort of all their comedy mates.
Yeah, sweet. So there you go. Yeah, she was quite prominent on that show. Very cool. She also appears for the second and final time in the next episode in the series, The Chinese Woman, which we've done quite a while ago.
Yep.
So check that one out. When we spoke about her in The Chinese Woman, we talked about the fact that Elaine kind of has like a hold on her in a sense, and she's very dependent on Elaine to go through life.
Yep.
And she's very insecure, and she, Jerry says one time you made her go to the army, you suggested the army and Noreen went.
Yeah.
And then, Kramer says to Elaine that Noreen's going to go in the army, and then Kramer supposedly gets her pregnant, and that storyline never goes anywhere, and we never hear from Noreen again. So a lot of things, like, she's not as prominent in this episode, but in The Chinese Woman, she is more prominent, but we do see wisps of the lady that she'll become in The Chinese Woman.
Yeah, when she's sitting down and having lunch, or for her, a cookie with a knife and fork with Elaine, and Elaine says to her that Dan sounds like a woman. As soon as Elaine says that, she's a bit bothered by it. She's like, oh, well, I'm going out with a man who sounds like a woman. And you can already see the cogs turning in her mind that she's going to break up with him.
It's been bothering her for a long time.
Yeah, well, I don't think she realizes. I don't think she realizes before then that Dan sounds like a woman, but deciding to break up with someone or even considering breaking up with someone usually takes a bit of time. Things have to build up.
Yeah.
You try and work through a problem or think about it, but she's already trying to sort of move on from Dan from that conversation, and it's immediate. So I think that's an example of Elaine having sort of this disproportionate influence over her, where Elaine just sort of makes a comment, and she doesn't say to break up with Dan. She just sort of says it as as part of the story, because that's why she was confused.
Yeah.
But then she's already saying, oh, that Jerry, he's sort of a baritone, isn't he? And then she becomes interested in the mistaken flirtation.
Yeah.
So, Elaine says something. She's just got this power over her.
Yeah, she does. She does. Actually, Noreen, I feel like with, I guess you could say, the tertiary characters on the show, she probably has one of the more emotional story arcs. She almost attempts suicide in the end of The Chinese Woman, and she doesn't know where she wants to be in life, and she's very insecure. She's very dependent on people like Elaine to get their, opinions on stuff.
Yeah, I mean, she just seems like a very lost person who needs constant reassurance, constant guidance. She doesn't trust her own instincts. She probably second guesses her own decisions, and any form of... I mean, Elaine's not even being mean about Dan's voice.
No.
She's just sort of stating it in a factual way. And Elaine, is a good friend, and when she realizes that she's sort of upset or confused Noreen, she tries to take it back, and she's like, oh, well, he's bald, he belches a lot. Like, trying to give her reasons to see him as a man again, despite his high voice. Elaine's trying to be the good friend and reassuring her, but Noreen's already just confused. She's like, oh my God, like, he's got a high-pitched voice. Do I want him? Am I attracted to him? So, she's just constantly unsure about herself, her decisions, others in her life. Everything just seems sort of, on the precipice of her deciding to not be part of it anymore.
Yeah, she just seems so insecure and very unsure as to what she wants to do.
Yeah.
In any aspect, relationships, finances, anything.
Yeah, and I mean, like we said in The Chinese Woman, Elaine does have a strong hold over her and a lot of influence, but Kramer does as well. Kramer just says, okay, well, I will take you under my wing and I will be your guide. So she's just seeking that. Maybe in her childhood or something traumatic happened where she just has zero confidence in anything she thinks, big or small. It could be a small decision or a huge life-changing decision. She just doesn't have any self-assurance at all.
No,
nothing.
No, but we, like I said, we do see that more in The Chinese Woman, which we have already done an episode on. But I get what you mean. You still see what she will become. Yeah, and you can still see that insecurity.
Yeah.
Regarding the flirtation with Jerry, obviously, like, it's implied that she didn't mean to flirt with Jerry. And Jerry seems very full of himself as well. He's like, well, Jerry just like he seems really full of it and saying, oh, Noreen did flirt with me, and why would I make it up? Why would I pick someone like Noreen? So he already thinks very little of Noreen, very little of her. I feel like she was probably really flattered about the thought that Jerry, hit on her or flirted with her supposedly. I feel like she was probably like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah. I mean, if we're assuming that we're not assuming. We know that she doesn't have a lot of self-esteem. So even if it's a mistake on Jerry's part, the fact that he would even think that she would flirt with him is a little shot of confidence.
And something that she needs.
Yeah, and you can see her going, so Jerry thought I flirted with him. She's already ruminating on that as soon as she realizes that maybe she's not as attracted to Dan anymore because of the high voice.
And even the line that they say in Monks, like you said, oh, Jerry's a baritone, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe she's starting to think, oh, maybe Jerry's keen.
Yeah, because she does a complete 180.
Yeah.
she's okay with Dan and who he is. She didn't realize that he had a high voice and that he sounded like a woman. But as soon as Elaine said it, she's already going, oh, do I want to be with him?
No.
And then she just immediately considers Jerry.
And then she's turned on by the deeper voice.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably likes
So
them more.
maybe it just occurred to me, deeper voices tend to be more authoritative. Maybe she can't be with a high-pitched person because she needs that direction. She needs that authority.
Maybe.
Maybe she thinks, Dan, no, I can't respect him.
No.
Whereas Jerry, Jerry doesn't have an especially deep voice, but he's someone I can be attracted to, and he's deeper voices mean more confidence.
I have to be a sub in basically every aspect of my life.
Could be.
Yeah, I can't be the dom.
People are, I've known a lot of women and some men to say that they find a very deep voice attractive.
Yeah.
There is this sort of this natural authority and power to it. So, could be something along those lines, maybe.
Maybe that's why my fiance got with me. My
True.
deep voice.
Amongst many reasons,
Oh, yeah.
Ivan. Oh,
Yeah.
baby.
Very what? Yeah.
I love the sexy slither of a female snake. Oh, baby.
Oh, baby. Rest in peace, Mr. White. Yeah. But yes.
Welcome, Larry White. My name's Barry. No, it says here Larry White. I think I know my own name.
Spot on. Simpsons love it. With Noreen, very dark kind of, well, it takes a dark turn in The Chinese Woman, but just very insecure, and I liked her character arc over the 2 episodes.
Yeah. She's sort of a bit of an underdog secondary character.
She is.
When you think of, great secondary characters, I don't think she would come to anyone's mind.
She's very underrated.
Yeah, but when you watch this episode in The Chinese Woman, she's a very notable secondary character.
She is.
Not just because of her darker than most secondary character storyline, but just, I guess, who she is. Yeah, it's cool. She's really good.
Yeah, she's really good. And like we said, we have done The Chinese Woman probably 3-4 months ago, so go back into our feed and you'll find it.
Do you have any other notes on Noreen?
No, but let's talk about Dan while we're there. He's played by Brian Reddy. He's appeared in the films Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And Dante's Peak. Just like Noreen, we have already done an episode where we have spoken about him in our What's the Deal with the Talkers episode. He was one of the many talkers that we spoke about, but that was quite a while ago. So, with Dan, he is extremely jealous.
Yeah.
He says, oh, Jerry hit on her or flirted with Noreen, my partner. Like, what the hell? What's going on? So he's very defensive, very feisty.
Yeah, and he also doesn't believe Noreen. Noreen off screen has told him, Jerry wasn't flirting with me. There's no threat. There's nothing to worry about.
Yeah,
but he even says he comes to the PBS studio, knocks on Jerry's
dressing room door.
Dressing room. I was like, locker room? Dressing room.
Oh, okay. Well, Dan would probably throw him into a locker.
Yeah.
If he was a tough guy.
And he even says to Kramer, I just can't let it go. Like, he's just on my mind.
I can't stop thinking about him, but not in the way you think.
No, not in the way that Kramer thinks.
No, not the way that Kramer thinks. I love when he goes, well, we have many channels to suit you, many TV programs on PBS to suit your lifestyle.
Yeah. And Dan, it's just going, what are you talking about? He has no idea.
No, he doesn't.
I would assume that, I'm not sure if we mentioned this or if I mentioned this in the Talkers episode, but I would assume that maybe the high voice has gotten him into, not trouble, but has caused problems before.
Probably, especially maybe during his teenage years.
Yeah. So when his voice, even though, again, Noreen said that Jerry's not a threat, doesn't have to worry about it, I think it brings up some old insecurities about his voice. Maybe women have told him, look, I like you, but I just can't get past your high-pitched voice. I don't find it attractive. I'm not sure. But yeah, it just feels like he has been down this path before.
He has.
Where his voice or a complication related to his voice, something to do with his voice, has put, even if it wasn't real, but has put the idea in his mind that his relationship is under threat. And, he feels
less masculine,
and to sort of compensate for that, he needs to be really aggressive and really, really inappropriate towards the guy, that he feels threatened by, even if there's no threat like Jerry.
He does, that's true. He also belches a lot too.
He does, and he's bald.
And he's bald.
Yeah.
There you go, he's kind of manly. I reckon he's probably like, a real manly dude.
Yeah.
But I think the only feminine aspect to him is probably his voice.
I think so. Yeah. I think he's just like, he's almost like maybe...
a regular guy. He goes to the bar, gets beers with
I reckon
mates.
he's just like a bread and butter blue collar dude. Maybe like George Costanza without the sort of lying.
Yeah.
And then, just like an honest George. George Costanza likes sports.
Yeah.
And, just sort of basic stuff, everyday stuff.
Without the lying, but with the baldness.
Yeah. Someone told me once that, like, the best sort of representation of that blue collar everyman, especially in America, is Marty Crane, Frasier and Niles Dowd in Frasier.
Sure.
He's honest. He's a good man. He's not a sort of a high concept guy, but he's still got some wisdom and, life experience under his belt. So he can sort of, he's not dumb, but he's not highfalutin either. So, yeah, maybe more like that, but with a higher pitch voice.
With a higher high-pitched voice, most probably. But yes, so we have spoken about him, like I said, in What's the Deal with the Talkers. So go back and whatever we said, I guess that's what we said about him then.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
There you go.
Don't know if we offered any additional thoughts then or if we just repeated ourselves, but it's been a few years, so we'll excuse ourselves. It's all good.
Indeed. And this is the only episode that he's in, I believe.
That's right.
That's right. Anyway, next character, who are we talking about?
Why don't we talk about Kristen?
Kristen, played by Rebecca Starb. She's appeared in TV shows including Nip Tuck, CSI, Matlock, and Columbo. She's a PBS volunteer. I feel like she's probably more than a volunteer, though. I think she's probably like, I put her down as maybe the fundraising coordinator. So maybe she's the one who organises the pledge drives and donations, because she's the one who organises the telethon as well. Like she pulls the strings, organise guests.
Yeah, she seems like, production manager or event coordinator or something like that. Like she seems to be bringing it all together. And she's on the ground, she's organising the guests. She's obviously overseeing the script. Jerry's rehearsing at his apartment, and he's sort of doing it for her. So I think she would be, like you said, the project manager, event coordinator, some sort of supervisory role where she's sort of bringing it all together so that on the day it executes well and there's no problems and, they can have a smooth event. Obviously, she couldn't have foreseen Uncle Leo.
No.
But she seems very good at her job. She she knows what she's doing. I imagine that she's been at PBS for a while.
I think so too.
I do know that PBS do run a lot of fundraising events. It was sort of a staple of their programming in the 80s and 90s and even maybe the noughties of doing these sort of telephone fundraisers. So, and I reckon, maybe she did start there as a volunteer. Maybe she was just on the phone and she eventually got it, she did it like an internship or she volunteered there regularly because she seems to know PBS really, really well.
She does, yeah, because I used to be involved in community radio and it was that kind of thing. Like you'd probably start off with doing like maybe your own show or you'd be involved in a show and then, you might move on to become part of like the committee and then you make changes or you organise things like telethons and fundraising events and other kind of events and PR and stuff for the radio station. So I guess it's very similar in that kind of way.
Yeah, I got the feeling as well that she had maybe a bit of a crush on Jerry or that she wanted a bit more because when Jerry was rehearsing his lines, you see her on his bedside, on his, not bedside table, on his bar stool.
They haven't gone to that room yet,
no,
I don't think.
They could have, but Jerry cooked it. She's really like smiling and she's just enjoying being
likes
there.
Him,
and I don't think, I imagine she would interact with like a lot of celebrities to make sure that they're okay with, what they're saying on TV and stuff. But I don't think it would be a case of her going over to their individual houses to run through lines with them.
I don't believe so.
No. I think she wanted something a bit more personal with Jerry.
Yeah, you don't. That's the thing. I mean, you don't go to someone's place to do like a script reading or something.
No, you would tell them to come to the studio.
You come to the studio.
This is a professional environment,
and especially these days with Me Too and shit, you probably want another couple of people there as well. You wouldn't want to be alone if you're a woman. You wouldn't want to be alone with a dude.
Yeah,
most of the time.
Yeah,
unless you're confident.
I just think it would be a bit. You would have it in a neutral location.
You would, yeah.
Even if it's just a lighthearted, like, hey, I just want to run through the lines. Let's just take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
The fact that she went to his house, I think, indicates that she wants something a bit more, and just her body language and her facial expressions. And they do have like a tiny bit of banter before she realizes that, and even the fact that she gave him a card, like a card thanking him for doing something before he did it.
Yeah.
Like that's usually would send a thank you card, like thank you so much for doing it after, not before.
Unlike with Noreen, she's definitely hitting on Jerry. Yeah, for sure. I feel like in that scene where they're rehearsing, I feel like if she didn't see the gift card in the bin, I reckon they probably would have got together.
It could have,
or at least she would have said, "Do you want to go out sometime?" or something.
Yeah, it would have gone to the next step,
next level. I think what killed it though, like what killed her fascination with Jerry, is the card. I reckon once the card was there, she suddenly, in the scene at the PBS dressing room, she's more professional.
Yep.
Yeah. So basically, she's dropped the entire romantic flirtatious.
Yeah, she's just very like, where's
Danny Tartable?
Danny Tartable. Yeah. This man has come here to see you. She's
more professional. She's more just like formal. Yeah.
Exactly.
Jerry,
yeah.
That's it.
I mean, it would make sense even if the card situation hadn't have occurred. I can imagine her being more professional during the event anyway, because she's she's doing her job. But I think you're right in that her change of tone and approach and body language is because she's just the card being thrown out just sort of killed any attraction to Jerry. I mean, she says, you're not sentimental. Yeah, I think she really doesn't like that about Jerry. Yeah. She kind of sees like he's sort of maybe shallow. I don't know.
Yeah, she made a good move, a wise decision.
Yeah, she's obviously quite perceptive to extrapolate him throwing out a card into. I mean, fair enough being mildly offended at that, especially when you've given a card and you like the person to be, it's a bit of a slap in the face.
It is, yeah.
But I think she sees that as a sign of like who he is. It's indicative of something more.
Indeed.
And
but
her instincts are strong enough to go, nah, maybe not.
But like I said, the gift card in the trash, that's what killed her.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry he wasn't very nice to her when he's like, I kept these cards from my grandmother. Look, I am sentimental. And she's like, that's salt in the wound. Like, you're showing me, I saw that you didn't keep my card, and you're showing me that you keep cards that aren't mine.
Aren't mine. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's...
Jerry couldn't read the room.
No. Well, I couldn't tell if he was interested in her either. I mean, he was very nice to her.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell if it was reciprocated. So I reckon if he was interested in her as much as she is in him, he would have, Jerry's good with women. He knows how to be charming, and he knows how to flirt when it's happening. So I reckon if he was interested in her as much as she him, I don't think he would have done the,
Well, one thing that came to mind, I feel like Jerry was so enamored by the concept of Noreen flirting with him. And Jerry is just so, immature and selfish. He probably focused all of his thoughts on Noreen. True. And maybe he doesn't have the capacity to think of like two women at the same time. So he's probably like thinking about, Noreen flirted with me, and he strokes his ego and stuff. And then Kristen, who's there and really likes him, he doesn't really have the capacity to see her as well. So I feel like...
He can't clock both.
You can't clock both, that's it. I feel like if Noreen wasn't in the picture, him and Kirsten, her and Kirsten would have been in the bedroom, a minute later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That would have happened.
Could have, yep.
So, yeah. So Noreen, in a way, kind of cock-blocked him.
Well, he cock-blocked himself by throwing a card in a bin.
That too.
Noreen or no Noreen, he fucked it up himself.
He didn't just block, he just like cut the whole thing off.
He did.
Genitals.
Yeah.
Well, everything.
I think so.
He did a full...
He eunuched himself.
He did eunuch himself and the rest. He did. Any other notes on Kristen?
No, that's it.
All right, who are we talking about?
Why don't we talk about Nana?
Nana, yes. She is played by Billy Ray Wallace. She's appeared as a guest in other TV shows such as ER, Murphy Brown, 90210, and Mad About You. She passed away at aged 73 in 1999 in Los Angeles. She does appear 2 more times in season 6 in the episodes The Kiss Hello, which we've done, and The Doodle, which we haven't done yet. So she does appear in there. Leo says to Jerry when she's missing that she hasn't left her apartment in 25 years. I feel like she's either just a recluse, she doesn't like going out, being in contact with people, or I feel like maybe she's widowed and maybe her husband died 25 years ago and she's kind of lost the zest for living. Maybe I don't know people personally like that, but there's stories of people who may have, they've been married for like 30, 40, 50 years, they lose their spouse, and then suddenly everything they used to do just becomes nothing.
Yep.
And then they just want to be alone.
Yeah.
They just become like a shell of themselves. So yeah, she's either just like an introverted recluse naturally, or she's become that as a result of the death of Jerry's grandfather or her husband.
I interpreted Leo's comment about her not leaving the apartment in 25 years as sort of his shit talking, because he does do it.
Oh, he does talk shit though. Yeah.
Sometimes he's not like a pathological liar like George, but he exaggerates a bit. Yeah. And he kind of just makes up white lies. Like
we have mentioned that about him before.
Like when he runs into Jerry and he's like, it's okay, I've got it's like Leo doesn't know anyone in show business.
This is the early stages of like his senility.
Yeah. So I mean, I imagine saying that though, I don't think that she's a social creature. I think that she's got a lot of fear. She kind of seems like she's out of touch with the world.
She's extremely risk averse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's very, very like anxious and fearful. But I think she would go out maybe on her own or maybe with... I mean, Leo takes her out.
I think Leo cares, like does most of the caring.
Well, he said... I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said something about taking her for an appointment or something.
Yeah. So, I think Leo probably... Well, they may not live together, I don't think, but I think Leo cares, provides care for her.
Well, Leo and Helen are her kids, and Helen lives in Florida, so
That's
Leo...
Right.
By default, I mean, there may be a third kid somewhere, but if they're the only kids that she has, Leo's kind of the default caretaker.
That's right.
Especially for, taking her to the bank and her medical appointments and whatever else, shopping and stuff.
That's right.
But yeah, I don't think that she's been trapped in her apartment. Well, not trapped, but I don't think she hasn't left her apartment for 25 years.
No, I don't mean she hasn't seen anything other than the 4 walls for the last 25 years. I mean, like, she probably just gone out to do essential things.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't think she will go out just for fun or for like a social
No, that's what I mean.
Or whatever. Yeah.
But whether she was always like that or whether she lost the zest for life because her husband passed, who knows?
Yeah. But she just seems very fearful and cautious of the outside world.
She does, yeah.
And a bit out of touch with, she thinks that it's still 1963 and that when the bank manager calls you to tell you about a problem, that isn't even really a big deal. It's just more like hey, your account's overdrawn. She's like, oh dear. Yeah. And she goes, I'll come there first thing in the morning. And as she's hanging up, you hear the bank manager go, we can just sort it out over the phone.
We can sort it out over the phone.
Yeah, so she's not aware of maybe modern ways of dealing with things things like that.
Yeah,
You know, where it would just be a 5-minute conversation. But, you know, and she's kind of stuck in, you know, that older style of doing that stuff.
Yeah, doing that stuff. I feel like, I think it's really cute in the fact that she still gives Jerry $10 checks,
Yeah.
even though he's like in his 30s.
Yeah.
She probably thinks that Jerry's still just a little boy.
Yeah.
You know, he's just always like the kid.
Yeah.
And $10, you know, even though he's a grown man, he's earning hundreds of dollars a week.
Yeah.
Maybe thousands by that
he
point.
does very well as a comedian.
Doing very well in that part of Seinfeld. Yeah, I feel like, she still thinks, oh, he's just a little boy, $10, you know, should do him.
Yeah. Like that's still a substantial amount of money.
That's right.
You know, I mean, for an 8-year-old or something, $10.
Oh, yeah.
You know, in the 70s or the 80s would have been, wow, I'm rich.
I'm rich.
I've won the lotto. But yeah, $10. I mean, Jerry just, you know, he doesn't bother. I mean, Kramer's like, why don't you cash these? And he's like, it's $10. Why would I bother?
A slap in the face.
Yeah, it's tantamount to a slap in the face.
A slap in the face. And I love when Kramer backtracks in the later scene and says, "Oh, your grandma's been going around throwing bouncing, you know, false checks.
Yeah,
and now she's messed with the wrong people.
She's pissed the wrong people off. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
love it.
Kramer's just not willing to cop to his dumb idea of cashing a bunch of $10 checks.
That's right.
Yeah, one scene I did like with Nana was when she's trying to find the chemical bank branch, and that thug comes out of nowhere.
Oh, and he looks like he's about to.
Yeah, he's like, "You looking for something, lady?" And she's a bit, you know, who's this guy?
Dear.
Oh dear! And then out of nowhere, he just becomes his friendly. He's like, "What you want to do is go down to 49th Street, and that's the main customer service branch, and you want to ask for Mr. Peterson,
Mr. Fleming,
Mr. Fleming, he'll help you out." And then she's like, she looks a bit confused, and then he's just like, he kind of has a smile on his face and just walks off. But he's got this really intimidating. Even the music changes.
It does.
It's got this really intimidating tone, and then he just snaps and becomes this friendly guy.
It's like, it's a nice scene.
Yeah, it's a nice little misdirect.
A little misdirect, and good on the thug. You know, he's probably looks like a thug, but he's probably a decent man.
Yeah, when she goes, isn't the chemical branch, the chemical bank on this block? And he just goes, it burned. He's kind of got this loco, crazy vibe, and then he's just like, what you want to do is you want to go down to 49th Street.
It becomes more pleasant.
Yeah,
civil. Yeah,
just complete 180.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a good scene.
Yeah, yes.
Do you have anything else about Nana?
No, we've got a few other characters I think to go through, right?
Yeah, look, I don't have a lot on the others. I do have a couple of notes on Danny Tartable.
Yeah, cool. I think I didn't check his bio or anything, but yeah, he was a real life New York Yankees player. I think he was a batter.
Yeah,
I believe.
I think he was quite a well-known baseball player.
Looks like a tough dude.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
Yeah.
But he's very chill and very passive.
He is.
You know, he seems to just go along with whatever George wants to do.
Yeah,
he doesn't object to George saying, you know, we're going to follow this guy because he flipped me off. He's just like, all right.
He's probably completely unaware of what the office at the New York Yankees is like. He's probably just on the field and he speaks to the coaches, but he knows nothing about management.
Yeah.
To him, George is like really high up and he's like, I better pay respect.
True.
Even though if he knew what George was like, he'd be like, oh, this guy's an idiot.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And I think, and George, you know, George is probably lying, but George says that he helped Danny with his batting. You know, it's probably bullshit.
Yeah.
He probably just said a couple of things and Danny's like, yeah, no worries.
What's the episode where George is really smart?
Oh, the abstinence.
Is that before or after this?
After.
Oh, okay.
I think season 8.
Yeah.
And he's like batting and he gets everyone and there's those two
all
players.
Physics.
Yeah. Oh, we can make the World Series.
Yep.
6 games.
6 games.
6 games. Yeah.
So eventually, you know, even though George probably lied about helping Danny Tartable with his swing, 2 seasons later he does.
He does. They win the World Series.
Yeah, he just needs to decide to stop thinking about sex.
Yes, and then in season 8, it's the Millennium, George tries to get fired and he's got the World Series trophy and he drags it along the parking lot in his car. So there you go.
Not a smart decision.
Not a smart decision, yeah.
Yeah, but just it's just funny that Danny, you know, like you said, he's such a big guy, and you know, you would assume that a star baseball player would just have like a lot of confidence and be quite self-assured, but he's not weak, but he's just happy to go along with everything.
Yeah.
He's just like, okay, George, yeah, sure, okay, Mr. Costanza.
But like I said, I feel like because he doesn't know who the managers are and their personalities, he probably thinks, oh, he's management, I better be respectful.
Yeah. I do like how he's like, are you gonna eat that last donut? And he sits there and eats with the knife and fork, and George just looks over at him like,
George started a trend at the Yankees.
Yeah.
Went to him and then Mr. Morgan.
Yep.
And then probably maybe one of the coaches came in and saw Mr. Morgan eat like that. And then the coach, you know, in the locker room was eating a snack or maybe on the bleachers when they were playing a game. And
or a training session or something.
Yeah. And then Danny saw it and was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
It was all subtle. Like no one said, what are you doing? They just look and go, oh,
yeah.
cool.
They just look at it and go, that is a good idea.
That's a good
idea.
idea.
Start doing it.
Yeah, it is actually a good idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have any notes about anyone else?
No, I mean, we had others like Morgan and stuff. I mean, all I'm going to say with Morgan is he has complete disdain for George. But in this one, he sees that George actually does something decent.
Well, this is sort of early-ish in George's Yankees career, so I think he's yet to like see George.
In his full disdain. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like he doesn't hate George because he hasn't had an opportunity.
It's only like a couple episodes insights into him.
Yeah.
True.
So, I mean, he does, he sort of poo-poos George's idea about PBS, but when George sort of condescends him and is like, how do you eat it? With your hands?
With your hands.
It sort of makes
him aback a bit.
Yeah, it takes him aback a bit, and he kind of feels a bit defensive and is like, maybe Costanza's onto something here with the PBS thing. So I think he has some respect for George, or just, it's either a mild amount of respect or just no disdain.
Yeah.
But that changes very quickly.
That's right.
And George just continuously, fucks him over, and eventually gets him fired.
Yeah, and then he gets divorced.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all that.
Yeah, it cost him everything.
Everything, basically his whole life.
Yep.
And also, I guess with Uncle Leo, just quickly, I mean, we have done an episode of him. What's the deal with Uncle Leo? Yeah, cares for Nana.
Yeah.
Big talks, talks shit and exaggerates stuff. And, he just jumps into the middle of the broadcast at PBS and just interrupts the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's normally a pest and is being a pest. Even though he's
ruined the telethon for PBS.
He's ruined the telethon, but his motivation is just trying to protect his mother.
Yeah, that's all it is.
But he's a bit too sort of lumbering to realize that, hey, maybe there's a way that, maybe I can just tell her to cancel the check. Maybe I don't need to interrupt on live TV and stop a whole telethon. I can just call Nana after and be like, that check you wrote for $1,500? Just cancel it.
He has to be dramatic.
Yeah, he has to be dramatic.
Has to be.
Yeah, but he's just sort of a bumbling, ignorant fool.
Yeah, like he is in most episodes.
Yeah, but his motivation is nice. His heart's in the right place.
Yeah, he's just taking care of his mum.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Good for him.
Anyone else?
The only comment I wanted to make about he's credited as banker, but I guess he's the bank manager.
Yes.
Was that he's just got a really smooth voice.
I'm guessing that's Mr. Fleming. No, because
no. Mr. Fleming is the branch manager the main customer branch.
Oh, sorry, this guy's just like the teller.
Yeah, well, he's credited as banker, but he seems more like a bank manager.
Bank manager, yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just got like a really smooth voice, and he's just a really, really good customer service person. He's just good at making Nana feel comfortable.
Yep.
Offers the phone. I was impressed by his customer service skills.
Yeah, I feel like with Nana, she probably liked Chemical Bank, and probably Leo would have to another account.
Yep.
Maybe Leo wasn't happy with something.
Yeah.
Something ticked him off, and he's like, "That's it, we're going to another bank."
Well, no, she stops banking there because the branch closes.
Oh, sorry, the branch closed. Burned down. Right.
Yeah, and
of course.
That's why she's confused.
Yes.
And that's what the street thug says. You've got to get down to the main customer service branch.
Yeah.
You can still use Chemical Bank, but just this branch is gone.
Yes, of course.
Go down to the main one. No, it's all good. I do that all the time where I say something and you go, well, actually, it's this other thing. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
When the creative juices are flowing, sometimes things just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to explain.
All good.
Anyway, that was the pledge drive, and I think we'll probably need a pledge drive soon. The listeners are like, what the hell are you guys talking about? Anyway, let's take a really quick break, and when we come back, we are going to wrap up the episode, find out where the pledge drive sits in our 153 episodes we've reviewed so far, and if any of today's newest secondary characters make our top 20.
Forgive me for trying to class up this place. For trying to have the Yankees reach another strata of society that might not watch Channel 11.
What the hell are you doing?
I am eating my dessert. How do you eat it? With your hands?
Now, Stephen, out of 153 episodes we have done so far, we're nearly at the end, my friend. Where does the pledge drive from season 6 sit for you?
This one sits at number 21. So
21.
Just outside the top 20. I really like this episode.
Me too, man. Number 17 for me.
Nice.
Cracker.
Yep.
Loved it.
No, really good.
Yep.
An underrated episode. It's never really considered up there with the classics.
Yeah, for sure.
But it doesn't have any transcendent top level Seinfeld stuff that everyone sort of knows, but it's all really, really good. There's no low points. There's no it's fine. There's no filler. It's just all really high quality.
And everything connects. Like, for example, with Kristen in the gift card, Jerry shows the checks or the grandma's cards with the checks, and then those checks lead on to another storyline with the Nana. And then the Nana goes missing, and then everything goes to shit at PBS. I love how everything just so subtle is just linked together so well. It's such great writing.
Yeah. Sometimes when they try and have 4 concurrent storylines and bring it all together at the end, sometimes it can be a bit sloppy or just underwritten, or it just doesn't come together. But this one they've just nailed it.
Yeah, and I mean with George, he's got his own storyline, but George doesn't quite influence the PBS plot. But he helps with the Snickers and eating the desserts and
the middle finger.
The middle finger, the works.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, no, I think we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Do any of the secondary characters appear in your top 20?
No, but special mention to Noreen. I do like her storyline a lot over the 2 episodes, this one and the Chinese woman. I think she's really underrated secondary, but not quite in my 20. What about you?
No, but shout out to the Street Tough and also the bank
Ah,
manager.
Yes,
banker.
the street tough and the banker.
Yeah, they were both just, they were in like one scene each, really.
Yeah.
But they were good. I like them.
They were fantastic. But anyway, that was the Pledge Drive. Thank you so much for listening. We do love hearing from you. If you want to send us an email, bidwabaskpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, and Instagram at BIDWBASC. We also have a Discord channel, but we haven't really used it for a while. So
No.
just find us on Discord.
We've also got a TikTok account, which we've never used
we
either.
haven't touched it.
Whatever.
I think there's this whole situation with TikTok in the US, trying to ban it or something.
Well,
I don't know.
That's the US.
Yeah, but we got a lot of American listeners.
Yeah,
so
well,
if you use TikTok, fine.
Yeah, that kind of got forgotten about.
I think
Just
so.
like, there's so many other things going on. They're like, hey, what about that TikTok ban? TikTok's like, oh, I don't know.
I don't know. We're still going.
We're not going to say anything.
No, we're not saying shit. Anyway, find us there. If you,
Someone in the American government hears this and they're like, hang on a minute, I forgot about the TikTok ban. They call up TikTok, they're like, we haven't forgotten about you. And they're like, damn you, Bidwabask.
Yeah.
We thought they'd forgotten about us.
And then this Chinese company that owns TikTok just like gives us a DDoS attack or something, kills our Facebook pages, websites, does everything.
They're gonna DDoS something that no one reads anyway.
Yeah.
We'll take you offline. Okay. We took you offline for 4 hours. Didn't even notice.
We record once a week.
Yeah.
4 hours is fine.
We're fine.
We're good. But yes, so yeah, you can do that. You can also support us financially on PayPal and Patreon. Patreon, for a small monthly fee, you do get bonus content, including Curbcast and Season 11. There are a couple of bonus podcasts that we do. And next week, Stephen, we are going to Season 8 and we're doing the Yada Yada.
Nice.
Yes.
Classic episode.
A couple of cracking episodes before our Christmas break, which we're looking forward to. So that's a good one too.
Indeed.
Can't
wait.
My name is Ivan.
And I'm Stephen.
We'll catch you next week for the Yada Yada. Take care of yourselves and each other during these very difficult times, and we'll see you next week.
Stop the show.